Welcome to the Roost News, the place for all things volunteer. I'm Kurt Springstead, a team member of the Roost News. And today I'm joined by Teresa Holt, the State Director for AARP in Alaska, and Linda Kruger, a volunteer with AARP Alaska. Thank you for being our guest on this episode of Roots Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. This is great to be here.
All right, so today we're going to be discussing a really interesting and meaningful topic. That is the AARP Walk Audit program, which covers street safety and accessibility for all of us. But before we get into the details of the program and in specifically your work, let's learn a little bit more about each of you. So I gave your titles in the introduction, but perhaps you can expand on what that means to you day to day, and if you care to share like how you came to be with AARP and how long it's been.
All right, well,
yep.
You want to start? I'll start. So I'm the state director for AARP, which means that I support the staff who support all the volunteers to get our work done in the state.
Okay, Linda.
All right, and I'm the face of AARP in Juneau, which is the state capital. And I work with a team of volunteers to serve in the community, help out at health fairs and other events, and just be the visual AARP presence in Juneau. And I've been working with AARP for about 5 years.
Very good. Thank you. All right, so thanks for sharing that background, because it's really always interesting to hear how people came to this and how long we've been at it. So, you know, I live in the New York metro area, and at least once a week, I hear of a serious pedestrian accident. And I'm certain this is happening across the country, certainly in every large city, but in other places as well. And we have actually introduced the walk and bike audits here to audiences recently in New Jersey. So I'm aware the goal is safer, more accessible streets, but, you know, can you share from your perspective the purpose of the AARP Walk Audit and what it's designed to accomplish for the audience?
I can start, Teresa. We've been working on our age-friendly Juneau plan, and transportation and pedestrian safety is an important part of that planning process. And so over the last 2 years, we've appreciated the opportunity to work with America Walks, and working with Ian Thomas and Jonathan Stalls, and to bring the community together. And it's been a wonderful opportunity to get the State Department of Transportation talking with the city and borough of Juneau, and working with local businesses and local residents to talk about where the issues are with transportation in the community. And this past summer, we identified an intersection where there's a new senior center and a new low-income senior housing facility and a lot of traffic. And so we did our walk audit there this summer to identify how we can work together, how the Department of Transportation and the city and borough and local businesses can work together to improve both safety and accessibility in that area. Teresa?
So I'll just throw in, like, the basic idea is to follow a path of travel to go from one place to another and see how safe it is, right? And so you're looking at things like, are there curb cuts? You know, what's the traffic like? How wide is the sidewalk? Are there, you know, is the sidewalk in good condition? Could somebody in a wheelchair do it? Could somebody with a walker do it? Could somebody with a stroller? Because it's not designed specifically for seniors, it's for people of all ages.
Right.
And also one other comment that we identified that I hadn't even thought about before is how long are the lights at the pedestrian lights at the crosswalks? Do people have enough time to get across the crosswalk before the cars start coming again? And that's a real critical issue. And so we've been able to address that in Juneau too.
Yeah, particularly as a wage, we don't get across curb to curb as fast as they thought we did, apparently. So
right.
I've been to your lovely city twice as a cruiser. Sorry because I know we throw the population out of balance and add thousands and thousands of people when we show up there. But I will tell you, it's a beautiful, walkable city. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what were the steps that an AARP state office needs to take if they want to put one of these walk audits initiatives in place?
Well, so I'll jump on that. Basically, the walk audit tool is available to anyone. You don't even have to be at AARP. So we've had different groups in Anchorage start using that. But basically, it helps to look through the walk audit, tool, read through it, pick a path of travel, find a group of people who are interested in improving that path of travel. And then it's also helpful to go and walk it ahead of time to see how dangerous it is. I'll tell you the story in Anchorage. We picked the worst intersection for our very first walk audit, and it truly scared us. It was not a great idea. So I ask other people, or when I'm telling other people, I say, go ahead and choose a simple walk audit for your first one.
Right.
Because it was really scary. It was a busy street. It was scary to cross the street. The street crossing wasn't long enough, and we were trying to take pictures. We didn't know what we were doing, so pick a simple one first, and then I'll pass to Linda.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, ours wasn't that that extreme, the one that we worked on, but it was so good to have all the players there, you know, to have the state, to have the local government officials, to have people who could make a difference, as well as the local people who use it on a regular basis, so they could talk about their personal experiences. And it all just made a difference. It was like the ingredients that are necessary for a good you know, for baking a cake or something that you need for it to turn out right. And I was really happy that we had that in Juneau.
Good, good. So I think we all kind of get the idea, but give us a little bit of the bread and butter. How do you go about conducting it? Are they kind of done periodically? Do we go to the same place once and again? Do we just do one spot and then forget it and go on to another one? Give us an idea of how that works.
I think I'll go first on that. I think it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. It's all of the above. The walk audit that we just did was the first time in that location, but one of our DOT, Department of Transportation representatives who was there said, oh, I did a walk audit 4 years ago. I'd like to go back to the same place I was at and do it again and see what's changed. And so I think it's good to go back and repeat, maybe during a different season, a different time of day, you know, change it up a bit and go back to the same place and see if you get the same outcome or if you identify something new. And then go to new places. You know, I mean, everybody, that's for both Teresa and me. I think we're in the community, so we are having the same experiences as everybody else, and we're hearing people talk about situations that maybe we can look into. And so keeping our eyes and ears open for where are those other locations where maybe a walk audit would be beneficial.
Okay.
Teresa?
And I think you know, we sort of fell into our second one because there's a senior center and senior housing across a very wide street. They asked us to do a walk audit there, so we pulled in people from the senior center, we pulled in people from the senior housing, we had someone come with a walker, we had our local volunteers, we had somebody from Department of Transportation. We did a walk audit, and then I think the walk audit isn't the big piece, right? You do the walk audit, you come back, you make your notes, you create a report, and then you take it further, right? So we took it to the Department of Transportation, to our pedestrian coordinator, and he helped us start the process of creating a crosswalk, which is what we wanted. And we actually got it. So that's very exciting. So I think, you know, all those pieces, the walk audit is really the first in the step, like, and then you try to make changes from your recommendations.
Sure. So I know there's a kit, and so there are with audit, I'm assuming there's like forms and things that people can use to help measure and record what they have in an organized way instead of us all making random notes, right?
Well, I think the key is to look at the AARP toolkit first, get an idea, sort of study it, then sort of put it away, go on your walk, take a video, take a camera, and take notes. Yep. Then go back and fill out your form, because the first time we tried to do it all at once on that dangerous street, and it's not a good idea.
Okay, very good.
And I think one of the we're fortunate, you know, almost everyone has an iPhone or some kind of cell phone that takes pictures. And so people, and that also engages people more, you know, they can be part of the process, and it provides a kind of an ownership of the activity, which I think, and buy-in, which I think is really important as well. So it gets people really involved.
Okay. So, but it also sounded like it was very much a mixed team. In other words, there were AARP people there. I'm not sure how many, but you had representatives from the local government, the DOT, and at times. So it was kind of a party, if you will, to get out there, right? Very
Well,
good.
and I think you can do it without getting Department of Transportation.
Sure.
We just happened to have a super friendly person who worked in that position and they were able to come.
Okay.
But even if you can't, you can just bring community members. I think Linda was good in saying you need somebody who uses that trail often or that path of travel often. And you need some people who can help you advocate for the changes you want.
Okay. So we might even be recruiting from outside of our normal circle. We might be looking for somebody who lives in the neighborhood or works in the area or something to give us that pathway guidance, if you will, that you talk about, Teresa, right?
Yes.
Excellent,
Absolutely.
excellent. That's a great hint, because otherwise we might all be strangers there and saying, geez, this looks doesn't that bad, but we don't know what the common issues are. So great. So just a little bit. So you've done. So what does it mean to have, a walkable, livable space, as described in the Walk Audit program? What is that? What do you think the goal is? I mean, I've heard some of it in your points. Maybe we put a sharper point on it for the audience here. What does that mean to you guys?
Well, I think for me, it was one of the things that I mentioned was what I hadn't thought of before is just the length of time that you have to get across the crosswalk, and the spacing, like the crosswalk that we looked at, there's a place kind of in the middle of the crosswalk because it's a big street with a turning lane, and there's an island where it provides a place where people can stop and be out of traffic if they don't make it all the way across. And so it's looking for those kinds of things. Teresa mentioned the ramps so that wheelchairs and people with walkers have a ramp to get on and off, and all those kind of safety considerations I think are really, really important. And for us, it's similar to what Teresa mentioned. In our situation, there's a senior housing facility, there's a low income housing facility, there's the intersection is close to a school, and between a school and a neighborhood where we've got young students walking to and from school. And so it's used by all ages, and making sure that every aspect of it is safe for everyone. And we identified there's a place where the sidewalk was uneven and broken, and to get some paint and paint that until it can be repaired, so it's really obvious that this is a concern for people who whoever they are who are walking there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. I think most of us here in the lower 48, if you talk about pedestrian safety in Alaska, I know for my thing, I'd be mainly thinking about bear and moose. But having been there, I'm aware that there are cities and there are suburban areas, so we shouldn't be so jumping to judgment. So, has the program met your goals? I think you've started talking about some of the changes and enhancements you've made based on this. Have you changed how you do the program based on your experience so far?
I think I'll go first. The one thing that's made a difference for me is just the outreach and connecting the people in the community who are interested in these kinds of issues with the Department of Transportation and the community development people at the City and Borough of Juneau. And it's just that it provided an opportunity to make those connections that I think are going to pay off over the years. It wasn't a one-time thing. I mean, this will be an ongoing event, and we'll continue to work together and strengthen those relationships, which I think is huge for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I want to say, I think people should think of it as a long-term project.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't think you're going to do a walk audit, write your report, and 2 months later they're going to change the sidewalk, right? It might be a 5-year, 10-year project.
Right.
And then the other thing I think is important is AARP has tons of resources. So we have several communities who've joined the age-friendly community. And so they're hearing presentations, they're meeting people, they're able to get technical assistance from the AARP experts about what it could look like, what it should look like. You have people to ask questions to. So I think that's a really big support too. And if folks don't know how to get started, they can contact their AARP office in their state.
Yeah, very good.
One other thing that I'll mention, so our walk audit covered 2 days, and on the second day, we did more of a walking, biking route audit on a trail, and on a bike trail, and our DOT representative invited his parents, who are really active in the bicycling community, and they rode their bicycles. And so they gave us the perspective from someone it wasn't a bike audit per se, but they were able to add the perspective from bikers and talk about, things from their perspective, which really helped a lot. I think that was great, as well as I think Teresa mentioned, having people from the senior center there who could talk about and bring their perspective. I think that's always really important. So.
I think it's an excellent point. For those in the audience who don't know, there's also a bike audit, and it's similar in concept. In fact, in one community we work with here in New Jersey, they combined them because what they try to do is address the full range of people who are in non-automobile movement on the street, because like you talked about, these things don't happen overnight. So if you're going to go to the government to get something done, you might as well do everybody's fixes all at once. Don't go ask for the walkers and then come back a year later and ask for the bikers, or vice versa. So that's a very good point, and that was smart of you guys to just bring that in. So that's something people could consider. Do they want to bring in more than one audience? Now, you touched on this a little earlier. So where the money really meets the road, so to speak, is kind of, sorry for the pun, is that once you've gathered all this data, you have to get something done. And you mentioned that you have a playback to those who might cause things to happen. But tell us a little more. Is it a public meeting? Is it a private meeting with the government, the DOT? Who from the audit team joins? The citizenry? Give us a sense of what that meeting looks like, or meetings, perhaps it is.
Well, I think it depends on your community, right? Okay. So Anchorage is a very large community. And so we started with presenting it to the senior center, who has some connections to the mayor. We also presented it to the pedestrian safety coordinator, one-on-one. And we got people talking about it. It was helpful to go to the Department of Transportation because they know all the people who can make things happen. We lucked out, the stars aligned. It was an election year. The mayor heard about it, decided it was a great thing to push through, and he pushed it through. And so we got it done in like 18 months from beginning to end. So that is a pretty short timeline. But, you just take advantage of those opportunities that come your way, sharing it with, the community council, with the legislators. If it's a federal road, if it's a state road, you need state funding. Just depending on who in your community has the power to make it change.
Right.
And I think we were lucky. We had an assembly member who was part of the walk audit, who actually came out with us. And that was really great because he was there firsthand to experience it, see what it was all about, and be able to work with us as we work through, the next steps of how to make something happen.
Okay, so that's what I suspect is probably going to be a multi presentation approach. And one thing most of us have learned is what you don't want to do is ambush a government official. No better way to get them on the wrong side of your argument than to, hold them up. So it's always good to preview it like you discussed it, Teresa. That's great. That's great. Thanks. That's a great insights, I think, for all of us here. So, you've done all this work, and here at AARP, you always like to, figure out, are we really accomplishing anything? So how do you think you're going to measure, or do you measure the success for these walk audits?
I think for us, we're going to go back out. We'll keep going. We will repeat. We will go back out in a year or two to the same location and see, what's changed? What kinds of physical changes were there, and what kinds of changes as far as user, what people are doing, how they're acting at the same location, and does more need to be done, and just kind of monitor what's happening over time. And so I think that's our plan.
Okay. Right.
I think for us, for this particular site where we got the crosswalk, we're going to go back in the winter to see how it works with all the snow, right? That's an important piece, because we already know that we're going to have to do some advocacy around that, because we heard from people at the senior housing and the senior center that the snow removal is is a bigger issue than the crosswalk, actually.
Right.
But also, I think, we were able to host the walking college in Alaska. And so we trained 10 people on walk audits as advocates and fellows. And so in Anchorage, there has been several of these folks doing walk audits. And so I think the idea is to get more people to start doing walk audits. I love this idea that I heard at a national meeting where I'm getting like community councils to find sections in each of their communities and do a walk audit, whether it's the path to school or, a dangerous intersection. That's a great way to get the word and to spread it so that we can change the community and not just one thing.
Yeah, I think it's great because nobody knows where the problems are, like those who live in those spaces, and nobody can do the whole town. And I think it's wonderful the way it probably also is a community building tool. With the success you've described, if I got anything done in my town, I'd feel like I'd won the lottery. So this would be a great way to bring a whole neighborhood together. So thank you very much. So we've covered a lot of ground, and I know just a little bit about this, but is there anything that we haven't brought out, anything you feel we need to share with our audience before we close up that we didn't touch on?
I just say two things. One, to echo what Teresa has said already, don't get discouraged. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a long process. And be ready for surprises. I mean, it's so cool to see the relationships built and the people coming together and people you wouldn't suspect or expect. And like Teresa's saying, we have so many opportunities to do other walk audits in the community and get other people involved and engaged, and just be open to that, be open to building new relationships and partnerships and continuing the effort, which I think is really exciting.
Great.
And I would just say, like 2 years ago, we didn't know anything about walk audits, right? We just started, right? That's the first step. So you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to go to training. Just download the tool, look at it, find some folks, get in touch with the AARP office in your state or your community, and get started.
Right.
Yep.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. So to wrap up for today, so all of you staff and volunteers across the country, first of all, thank you for listening to today's podcast on AARP's Walk Audit program. I think you should be encouraged by what you heard today from our friends in Alaska. So we encourage you to subscribe to our Roots News podcast channel on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast platform. And of course, please invite your colleagues to join us. And on behalf of the Roots News podcast team, we thank you.